Welcome to Tour Tuesday, everybody. It's good to see you all here. Lots of smiling faces and people eager to hear about some new trips. 3 new trips, 3 in this episode, 3. So lots to talk about. Let's see, we have had some busy few weeks on the road, lots of day trips have been happening, and now we're moving into overnight trip season. So our multi-day vacations are just coming fast and furious. We've got a trip out now to Agua Canyon. We've got a trip out to the Ark Encounter. I believe tomorrow we're going to Cape Cod. We've got a lot of trips in August, and then even more and more trips in September and October, because that seems to be when all of you love to travel. So we're working on them very much so. So and then of course, as we're getting these trips on the road, we're working on 2024. So exciting stuff happening at Star every day. We have a brand new travel advisor who just started a couple weeks ago, and she was a quick learner, and she's already on the phone talking to clients like you. Her name is Bridget. So if you call in, please be sure to introduce yourself and say hello to Bridget. And of course, Lindy is still here with us. I think, did I see her? Oh, yeah, there she is. She's waving. Hi, Lindy. Lindy's here, and she knows her stuff. So if you have any questions, or you want to talk to Lindy or Bridget about any upcoming trips, please don't hesitate to call and talk to us. Let's see. I love your chats on the side. Hello, everyone. So let's see. We are going to talk about, like I said, 3 new tours today. Girlfriends Getaway, which this year is to Newport, Rhode Island. We're going to be talking about the best of the Pocono Mountains, and we'll be talking about Maine's mid-coast, Boothbay Harbor. And we're going to talk about them, I believe, in that order. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. There we go. Everyone can see that?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. And I would like to introduce Sharon Kreska. Important for you to see her picture here, because her camera is actually not working. So normally you see our guests on Zoom, but you see that little black square at the top of your, probably at the top of your screen. Well, that's Sharon. So you can now see a picture of her, which is good that I had this, since you can't see Sharon today, but she is with us live and in person. And Sharon, tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about US Tours.
Thank you, Sandy. It's always great to be here. Yes, my name is Sharon. I'm with US Tours. We are a partner with Star, and we actually organize, sell, manage, operate all of the group organized tours for Star. And so it's very exciting for us to build this program with them. We have lots of clients of theirs over the past 3 years. I believe it's been about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And so our team here is just excited to put those packages together and offer them to Star, as well as some of Star's tours, their retail tours. We help out with those as well. So we're just really excited to be a partner with Star, and looking forward to sharing these 2 new tours with you today.
Awesome. Well, first we're going to talk about Girlfriends Getaway. And as Sharon said, yes, US Tours plans all of our group tours, plans and sells to group leaders all of our group tours, but certain tours for our retail or public customers like you, they plan these tours too. Whenever we think that somebody else is an expert in doing something and maybe could do it better than we do, we're all for that. So in this case, US Tours put together this special program that we loved, and we said, oh, we want to offer this to Star, and this is what came about. So this is the Gilded Age of Newport. It's October 19th through 22nd. And this tour was inspired by, what was the show, Sharon?
It was called the Gilded Age.
Okay, well, there you have it. I'm glad I couldn't think of that right then. So it was inspired by the show. So you'll see Sharon will talk about it as she takes us through this trip. It includes 5 meals. It's $15.99 per person based on 2 in a room, $21.99 per person based on single occupancy. So I will let Sharon take it from here because she is the expert.
Okay, so our very first day of this trip, we depart for Middletown, Rhode Island. And this is where we will spend 3 nights and hub and spoke on this tour. So it's nice, it's unpack once. It's about a 5-hour ride for us to get there. So we will do a lunch stop on your own with the rest area in between to make the travel more comfortable. We will arrive probably mid-afternoon sometime to the Middletown, Rhode Island area, check into the Wyndham. We use the Wyndham Newport, and you'll see pictures on the screen there. It's a beautiful property located right on the water, so you have really great views. They do have a lot of amenities for their guests, outside fire pits and outside seating areas. So when it's a nice night, you can sit by the water. All updated accommodations on the inside of the hotel, including the indoor pool and all of their room accommodations. And then, of course, they offer the standard amenities of in-room refrigerators, microwave ovens, and coffee makers.
Awesome.
This evening, the first night, we will have an included dinner, and that will be at Johnny's Restaurant, which is the on-property restaurant at the hotel. This is a local favorite for a lot of people there, mostly because of the views, because you get to sit right on the water, and they have a great menu scheduled just for our group as well. And then we have special entertainment for that evening. We're joined by Mrs. Astor, so Mrs. Caroline Astor. And if any of you have watched the Gilded Age series, which was a mini series that was on this past year for a very brief time, which I'm a little sad because I was hooked on it. Mrs. Astor was obviously, Mrs. Caroline Astor was the head of the Gilded Society in New York City, and was one of the famous families who came to the Newport area to her summer cottage. So she's going to join us this evening for a little bit of entertainment and fun. She's going to do what we call breaking the rules of Gilded Age. So she explains about some of the traditions and the rules that she kind of created on her own in that era. And regarding the way you spoke, the way you walked, the way you dressed, all of these things. And so she was really the kind of the leader, if you will, of the movement during the Gilded Age for women. It was a definite society to be a part of, and she was kind of self-created in that. A lot of people always say that you know, anyone who wanted to be in high society and was planning a party, the big question was always, well, what would Mrs. Astor do? You used her as your go-to. So it should be a fun evening. Then the next day, after breakfast at the hotel, we're going to, again, have Mrs. Astor with us for the day. She's going to take us on a guided tour of Newport. She is going to show us all around Ocean Drive, take us down Bellevue Avenue, where all these summer cottages, if you will. And if you could see me, I usually do little quotation marks around cottages because they're not what we perceive as a cottage. She's going to take us down a lot of the locations where they did film the show, so she can kind of talk about and kind of bring it all together with who lived where and how that society all was together every summer in Newport. We're going to do free time on our own at Bannister's Wharf for lunch. This is an area that's just beautiful. Been in Newport since 1742, so there's a lot of history there. Has great restaurants. It has been known that Ted Turner does hang out there a lot. So, you know, you're walking around, you may keep your eyes peeled for Mr. Turner while you're there. After lunch, then we're going to take a little cruise, and you'll see it on the screen there, the upper right-hand corner picture. We're going to get on the Rum Runner too, which is another boat that looks similar to the one on there. It's just a little bigger. The Rum Runner was built actually in 1929, but they used it to smuggle during Prohibition. So it kind of gives you that real feel of how they actually had to get their wares and get their alcohol around during that era. So, and as well, on this cruise, it takes us past some of the cottages or so-called mansions from the water view, which is just spectacular. In the afternoon, we're going to visit Newport Vineyards. This is an exciting place. It was established in 1977, and the couple that actually purchased the land and started to grow did it because they wanted to preserve the agricultural land from rapid development. They saw a need for this. And so this is a great way to accomplish this and still have the community be a part of their business. So we're going to take a tour, and also you get a tasting as well. Then we're going to return to the hotel to freshen up. And this evening, we're going to go down to Bowen's Wharf, a little bit different of an area. This is the anchor of the waterfront in Newport itself. Best known to be one of the finest harbors and the wharf areas in New England. Has the brick sidewalks and the granite lined streets, and all of the 18th century buildings are still standing. So a lot of them are now repurposed to hold restaurants and little quaint shops and lots of things to see and do in that area. So it's a good evening to just stroll around. Day 3. I like to call this our mansion day because we just spend some time actually going to visit some of these cottages, or if you will, mansions, because in our way, they're a little more than a cottage, and you'll see that here in just a second. We're going to visit 3 of the mansions that still stand. The first, we're going to visit Chateau Sumar. This was and as you can see on the screen, it's very Victorian style. It was built in 1852, and it was built for a China trade merchant, William Shepherd Westmore. And, again, a lot of money in this area, a lot of industrialists, a lot of businessmen. So that's why you have all of these summer homes out there in that same area. And this home was actually used to entertain large parties. There was a large summer party held with almost 2,000 guests in the year of 1857. So it was like one of the first mansions in the area that held these huge outside parties and picnics for people of the area and guests invited in. Then the next mansion we go to is the Breakers. And I know a lot of people are very familiar with the Breakers. If we mention to guests, oh, we're going to go to Newport, right away they mention Breakers, because that is one of the more well-known, because it was owned by and built by Cornelius Vanderbilt. This mansion was built in 1893, so you can see the history here, a little newer than Chateau Sumar. And it was to show their wealth and their prosperity in the steamship and the railroad industry that they were such a big part of during this 19th century. You can see the gorgeous interior on that one. And then the last one, after we have some lunch on our own, we'll do a third stop, and this one is the Elms. This was, and if you watched the show at all, we'll reference back to that. Mr. Berwin was very much a character in the Gilded Age show. This was the summer home residence of Mr. and Mrs. Edward Julius Berwin of Philadelphia. And this was built in 1898. And so they wanted it built after a Paris mansion. They had all these interior designs that they wanted included, which was more of a French flair. So they had their builder include areas that they could show off their art. When this was built in 1898, The value of it was $1.4 million. So we can imagine what that is today, right? Just a little cottage
A
on the
little.
water.
Teeny tiny.
Just little. And then dinner this evening, we're going to have at LaForge Casino Restaurant. And, everybody gets confused going, oh, we go to a casino. Well, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to gamble. LaForge Casino was actually built in 1879. It was originally called Newport Casino, and it was built as an exclusive resort for those wealthy summer residents that came there to the area. And so today it houses a couple different things, and one of them is the LaForge restaurant. So we're going there this evening for dinner, where we'll have a delicious meal. And then after the meal, we're going to have an authentic Gilded Age cotillion, which is like a ball, but just a little bit smaller, where they would have live music and teach you how to do some dance steps. And so, of course, Mrs. Astor is going to come and show us how to be proper and learn some of those dance steps and be part of the cotillion that evening. The next day and last morning, we'll check our bags and get onto the motor coach. We'll have breakfast at the hotel, and then we're going to go back to the Newport Casino area, because part of that houses the International Tennis Hall of Fame. And this is something a lot of people don't even know exists. It really is worldwide, and it really is something that I think has interest for everyone. It's really immense, if you will, and it highlights the champions and celebrates all of the international tennis players over time. So it's really, we love to include it, something different for everyone. Then after we leave there, we're going to head towards home and a stop in Old Mystic Village for time for browsing and lunch on your own. And of course, kind of falls within the same time frame. 1720 is the time frame that they went for with building this village and recreating some of the buildings there. And today, the buildings are still standing. They keep them up. The shop owners are very proud to offer unique items really from around the world. So it's just a nice place to take a little relaxation and walk around before you head for home.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sharon, for taking us through that. It sounds like a great trip. And I don't know if you know, but today is National Girlfriends Day. Oh, who knew that?
Wow, you planned that.
Yep. Totally appropriate for our Tour Tuesday. And just to recap, this trip is October 19th through 22nd. The tour director is Evie Simon. I think Evie's on the call. Let's see. Yep, she's waving. There she is, if you can see her. The good news is it's selling well. The bad news is there's only 9 seats left. So if this is something that you're interested in, call us tomorrow or book online tonight. Does anybody have any questions for Sharon about this trip?
Could you repeat the price again?
I sure can repeat the price. Let me just go back to that screen. And I will share it with you. And then you can see it. You can take a snapshot of it if you want, but it's $15.99 per person based on double occupancy. There will be plenty of girlfriends there. If you're only one person, we would love to have you. $21.99 per person for single occupancy, or our solo travelers are more than welcome to join us. Any other questions about this trip?
Yes. Is there a particular dress for a number of these locations that we're to have?
All very, you can dress casual.
Even to the cotillion thing and all of that?
To the cotillion, yes. Mrs. Astor won't judge.
What about the walking that is involved? How much is that? Is that a lot?
There's really not a lot of walking on this. The 2 days that we do lunch on own at the wharfs, there is some walking if you so choose, but there are plenty of places for you to sit as well.
Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you, Joyce. Any other questions before we move on? All right, Sharon has a second tour to talk about, so don't go anywhere, Sharon. The next trip that we're going to be talking about is the best of the Pocono Mountains. Now, I just spent the weekend at the Poconos this past weekend, and it was fantastic. I loved it. It was just so beautiful and peaceful. Lakes, foliage, scenery. It was just great. This trip, I think, is perfectly timed for September 15th through 17th, or early fall, late summer. It's a 3-day, 2-night trip. It's not rushed. There are 6 meals included on this trip. It's $9.99 per person based on 2 people in a room, and $12.99 per person based on a single traveler or a solo traveler. So this is where Sharon is going to take it away again. So there you go.
All right. This one is near and dear to my heart because I don't live far from the Poconos. So just saying, this is a great itinerary. And as Sandy said, perfect time of the year, just before fall foliage hits, where it gets really, really busy. So it should be nice and quiet and peaceful. End of September is great weather. So we're going to depart, travel to Hawley, Pennsylvania, which is for most people from Trenton area, outside of Philadelphia area, it's about a 3-hour ride. So leaving in the morning, getting there early afternoon, late morning time, we're going to go right to Lake Wallenpaupack, where we're going to take a boat ride, and you'll see that picture of that boat on the screen there. It is a great little paddle kind of pontoon boat, and the guide tells you all about the local history and the flora and the fauna around the lake. Just a really great 50-minute cruise of the lakeside. Then we're going to stay in that area. On the right, you'll see the outdoor area there off the side of the lake. We're going to have lunch at the dock, which is, again, spectacular views on the lake. Great day with warm sunshine just blowing. I can feel it now, just sitting there and relaxing. Wonderful location for a lunch. And then we're going to check into our hotel, and this is really special for us. I actually did a visit late last year up there. They are on top of everything. This is probably one of I consider one of the best resorts in the Pocono area. We're going to check in for 2 nights to the Shawnee Inn, and you can see some images there on the screen. Some of the amenities are they have an indoor pool. They have all of your amenities included in your rooms. This is a great shot of the lake outside. They are a resort, so they do have a golf course. They do have a ski area, which obviously we won't be taking advantage of the ski area this time of the year. They have a playhouse, and they have just a great resort area, and it's just so beautiful and peaceful. The thing is, it was built in 1911. So it is an older style of inn, even though it is very well maintained. Every room is completely different. So here you see the room in the upper left-hand corner, hardwood floors with great wallpapers and designs and fabrics, just really homey feeling inside, but every room is different. So that being said, it's not like being in a regular hotel. And the one other thing that we always like to mention is that there are a step up to get into the bathroom. So they are not handicap accessible if you would need that, because of it being an older resort and they redid some of the bathrooms, they had to do the plumbing. So there are steps up into the bathroom. Let's see. Then we do that night, we're going to have dinner at the hotel, and great. They have a wonderful restaurant there where they put us into that, with has windows overlooking the golf course and the scenery outside. And then after dinner, we're going to visit the Playhouse. This is a real hot spot in the area. A lot of people come there for shows. They do some really off-Broadway shows, as well as some current things and some unique things that they do on their own. The show that we're going to see is called A Good Day. And this is a show about an elderly man who is a widow, and he gets thrust back into his childhood and has some long-term memories of his first love. And unfortunately, she has Alzheimer's. So the two, it's about their relationship and how they manage that going forward as they get older. So it's a really good show. On day 2, we're going to have a delicious breakfast at the resort, and then we'll leave and travel to Jim Thorpe. Yes, Jim Thorpe is very well known around the world for a lot of different reasons. They do call it Little Switzerland. It was an area where a lot of industrialists did come and live because of railroading and the river being there. There was a lot of industry that was sprouted up in that area in the early 1800s. I'm sorry. So the town itself was founded in 1818. It was called Little McChunk, which was a Lenape Indian word. And in 1954, it was renamed, and it was renamed for the Olympian and greatest athlete of all time, Jim Thorpe. He is buried there. And so the name of the town was changed to honor him. Today, you still see the running railroad, lots of little shops. You can see how it lays in between the mountains there. Asa Packer, who was a tycoon in the railroad and industry, has a mansion there that, if you so choose, there will be time for you to go visit that. His son had a mansion as well, which still stands, which is now a bed and breakfast. So a lot of history in the area, and a lot of, again, little time for walking to see the shops and restaurants along the main street. Then after we have some time, we're going to ride the Lehigh Gorge train. And that does depart from Jim Thorpe. You see a picture there of it. It takes us up along the river through Glenanoka and into the Lehigh Gorge State Park area. So a lot of beautiful scenery, a lot of waterfalls, and good things to see in an open air train ride. Then after we do that, we're going to leave Jim Thorpe, and we're going to actually change this up a little bit probably and go back to the hotel. Get you some time to rest, freshen up, change around if you wish. And then we're going to leave and go to the American Candle Shop. This is a place where I think most people who live in the area go at least once a year. You have to get your fill. They have not only homemade candles, but they have all of your what I call collectors. So Department 56, Vera Bradley, all of Pandora. They have a lot of different vendors that do have their wares there, as well as you'll see in that right-hand side there on the top, they have like an old-fashioned kitchen candy place where you can get candy of any kind. So if you like those penny candies or something different, you'll definitely find it here. So it's a good stop for you to get, like if you want to take little tchotchkes home as well, you can get those there. So we'll go there on our way to dinner, and dinner is at Barley Creek Brewery, and this is in Tannersville, and it is a restaurant that really has morphed itself, especially since COVID. It was started by 2 young men as a brewery company, probably now about 20 years ago, and then when COVID hit, of course, they were forced to change their business a little bit. So they've expanded their outdoor area, and they have a miniature baseball field there and all kinds of things for people to do outside, as well as they still have the restaurant with the brewery. They do great menus, and they're really good with groups. So we like to take everyone there for dinner. And then that ends that day. So then we go back to the hotel, where you'll have plenty of time. This should be an early day. You'll have plenty of time to enjoy the resort and just kind of relax in the area. And then the following day, our last morning, we will have breakfast at the hotel. And then we're going to the Tannersville Cranberry Bog Preserve. And just need to be clear, it's not really a cranberry bog where they grow cranberries. We're not going to see the ocean spray guys. It's not quite like that. This is a good picture of it here you see. And what it actually is the glaciers that were there, you know, thousands of years ago, when they melted away, left a lot of thick mud and a lot of deposits. And so now it's all morphed itself into like probably close to a foot of green moss and algae. So it's a great place for agriculture to grow and become fruitful in an area that is untouched. And you'll hear a lot while you're on this trip, I'm sure, that, you know, the Poconos are they hold very near and dear to their heart that they're preserving the outdoors and preserving the area. And so this is one of those ways. So you'll get to go here. A conservatory employee will take you through. It is almost like a boardwalk type system on the ground so that you're not walking in the mud. But you get to see calla lilies and orchids and gold thread and many other types of plants that and things that are growing that you wouldn't normally get to see. And this is in their natural habitat. And then there's also a lot of wildlife in that area as well. And, you know, I don't want to scare anybody, but there are bears. They don't usually come out during the day when we're there, but they are. And there's beavers and porcupines and minks and all kinds of animals that call this place home. And again, it's just trying to preserve the agriculture and the habitat for all of these species to survive. So it's just a real great place to visit. And then we're going to go to the Willow Tree Inn for lunch. And this is, again, fits right in with the kind of history of the Pocono areas. This is about a 200-year-old inn that has been completely renovated. And they do a great job here where we stop in and we do a buffet that is made by Chef George Nunn. He is a retiree, I guess you would say, of the Culinary Institute of America. So he does bring all of his special dishes to us and gives us a wonderful lunch before we head home. So it's just a great time to be in the Poconos. And I look forward to sharing all of this with you and hope that when you do come on this trip, you enjoy it.
Awesome, Sharon. Thank you so much for taking us through that. This trip, just to recap, is September 15th through 17th. Martha Costa is the tour director. There are only 11 seats left.
Yeah.
So another popular tour. What was that?
I'm here. It's just that I couldn't get on the Zoom for some reason. So I'm listening to the whole thing on my phone.
Oh, good. That's Martha.
So,
Martha,
yeah,
your tour director, is here with us, listening to all that Sharon had to say. So that's great. I'm glad you're here with us, Martha. Does anybody have any questions? Great. It does sound great. Does anybody have any questions for Sharon?
One thing I should say about that tour, there is quite a bit of walking in this tour. So you really need to be mindful of that. And some of it is not, it's hilly and you have to watch your footing. So I would recommend for folks who have some issues maybe with walking, you know, let the tour guide know ahead of time and we can make some arrangements if you're already signed up for this.
Great. Thank you for pointing that out for sure. We always want to know if there's a extraordinary amount of walking on a tour for our clients. Absolutely. Any other questions? Well, Sharon, thank you so much for joining us. I think this is your second time presenting, right?
Yes, I think it is my second.
Awesome. I know you'll be back. So we're going to continue to have programs from US Tours that are going to excite our clients. So thank you so much for joining us. And let's all wave goodbye to Sharon. We can't see her, but we can wave goodbye. Hopefully she can see us.
I can see everyone. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. And now we're going to move on to our final tour of the evening. And we have another presenter. Is Nancy here? Let's see. I know Nancy was having some technical difficulties, but I thought I saw her
Yes.
doing.
I am here.
There she
Can you
is.
hear me?
There she is.
I
Awesome.
am.
Good to see you, Nancy. Let's see.
Good to see you, Sandy, and
Yes.
everyone. Hi, Nancy, Jane, and
Nancy,
Effie, and yeah,
Nancy's also a second-time presenter, right?
that's right. Last
Yep.
May, I believe it was.
It's
Yeah,
the
a year
veterans
ago,
are
May.
coming back, the veterans. So you have met Nancy before, and I'll give you her background. Nancy, do you want to remind us what you do for STAR in terms of
Sure.
tour planning and guiding?
Sure. So there's several tours that I have put together for STAR. The first one is in May, and that's to Algonquin, which is southern Maine. And really one of the highlights on that tour is attending a summer stock theater, the Algonquin Playhouse, which is a beautiful old theater that has really top-rate musicals. It's a lot of fun. It's right next door to the resort that we stay at, the Meadowmere. There's also a lobster pulling trap pulling cruise. That's a lot of fun. Folks have time in Algonquin, and that involves time both in Perkins Cove, which is a little section of Algonquin. Beautiful. It's right on the ocean, the Rocky Coast. There's benches all along what's called Marginal Way. If people don't want to walk, want to sit and just enjoy the view, and their little shops and restaurants in Perkins Cove. Then Algonquin Beach is one of the most highly rated beaches in Maine, a nice sandy beach. And they have a nice setup there. They have all these Adirondack chairs, several rows of Adirondack chairs. And if there's an awning in case, you don't want to be in the sun, or, the weather might not be 100%. And it's just a beautiful, relaxing place to be. The tour also makes a stop and does a tour in Kennebunkport. Kennebunkport is only about 20-25 minutes from Algonquin. So that is May. In June, historically, I've done a trip to a part of Maine that I think a lot of people don't really know about. Rangeley, Maine is in the Western Mountains part of the state, and it's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. It's mountains and lakes, huge, miles and miles long lakes. Has a very interesting history. Back in the early 1900s, it was a destination for fishermen. They had caught giant size fish, and there was a whole plan to try to get people to come up and fish, and a lot of well-known people would go. Folks from a lot of the large East Coast cities would actually go up for the season. And they were very wealthy people who wanted to get out of the cities for the summer. And oftentimes their wife and the kids would stay for the whole season, and the husband would go back and forth. It's really off the beaten path. There are no traffic lights in this little town, and no McDonald's, no Dunkin' Donuts. It's really like taking a step back in time. And we're going to do that tour up a little differently for the coming year by having it in the fall. And it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Going in the spring, it's always timed to see the lupins that are in bloom in June. And scheduling it in the fall is going to be beautiful for the foliage. It's just absolutely beautiful. And if you just really want to get away from it all and stay in the Rangeley Inn, which is a beautiful old inn that's been restored. A very dedicated young man purchased it, I don't know, 10-12 years ago, and just has really transformed it into its beautiful state that it is. So that is June. July and August are tours that go to Bar Harbor. They also stop in both Portland overnight, and then it continues up the coast to sort of the upper mid-coast region of Maine, stopping in the towns of Rockland, which is the lobster capital of the world, home of the lobster festival every August. And then just 7-8 miles further north is the lovely town of Camden, Maine. So there's chances to look around in both areas. Peyton Place, if you remember the book and or the movie, and or the TV show. It was, the movie was actually filmed there years ago. So that's really interesting. It has a beautiful, beautiful harbor, lots of shops, ice cream places. Again, just a really nice place to relax. And you're not so off the beaten path. That tour then continues north, making a stop at one of my favorite places in Maine, which it's in the Camden Hills State Park. And the bus goes to the top of Mount Batty with this amazing panoramic view of both the harbor of Camden that's below, and Penobscot Bay, which is beautiful, full of islands. So you're not in Camden, New Jersey, but you will be in Camden, Maine. Then the tour has a lovely lobster dinner right on a beach in Lincolnville, Maine. That tour goes on to Bangor for overnight. And then the next day is in Bar Harbor with a lovely tour of Acadia National Park. That's really the highlight, one of the big highlights of this particular tour. There is a guide. You're with the guide for 4 hours in the afternoon, making numerous stops and taking in the beauty and learning the history of Acadia. And then it comes back to Portland. There's a boat cruise. Time to look around Portland and then back home. So that brings us up to the fall, September and October.
That's exactly right. So you've done a good job of giving the overview, and Nancy does all of our Maine tour planning, which is great that she helps us sort of sculpt the whole year at a glance. And I think that's super important. This tour that she's talking about today, Maine's Mid-Coast featuring Boothbay Harbor, is perfectly timed for the fall. And as you can see, it's right in the middle of the fall, October 15th through 18th. It's a 4-day, 3-night tour. It includes 5 meals. And it's an area that we haven't concentrated on in the past, so Nancy thought it would be a great opportunity for us to show you this area. The price is $11.99 per person for 2 people in a room, and $15.39 per person for single occupancy. So I will let Nancy talk in more detail about this specific trip that we know you'll love.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Yeah, it's been really exciting to put out a new tour for this fall. Haven't gone to Boothbay Harbor for some time. Boothbay Harbor is also considered mid-coast Maine. It's about an 1.5-hour drive north of Portland. And so the first day, as it says here, you travel to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Portsmouth is right on the border. You go over the river and you are in Maine. So dinner that night is at the hotel after a long day of riding on the bus. I think having a nice meal, and it's at the Holiday Inn, Portsmouth, which is a lovely property with the restaurant, a pool, good food, and have time to relax there. Okay, day 2. After breakfast at the hotel, we travel to Cape Elizabeth. Cape Elizabeth, Maine is a little town bordering Portland. And as you can see in the photo, you can see most of the Portland headlight. It's an iconic headlight. It's one of the most photographed lighthouses in the country. It's in a beautiful large park called Fort Williams Park. A lot of history to the fort. And what's interesting, I think, about this photo is that the Portland headlight is the oldest lighthouse in Maine. So it was commissioned by George Washington, our first president, back in 1791. And then there's the lighthouse keeper's house, which today the first floor houses a museum about the history of the lighthouse, of the building of it, and so forth. And then their office is upstairs. When I first moved to Maine, there were 2 apartments on the 2nd floor that they rented out, but that was a long time ago. And they have a cute little gift shop there. So the photo of the lighthouse in the foreground is Portland headlight. And then the smaller lighthouse you see in the background, that is one of the last lighthouses to be built, 1905 in Portland. And that is called the Ram Island Ledge Light. And it sits on a ledge of rock. Looks like it's just a stone's throw away. So you have the oldest one and then one of the newest ones there. In the photo of the two women there, you get a better look at the lighthouse keeper's house. It's just idyllic. There are trails if you want to take a walk. You can stay on flat land, or you can kind of go along the rocky coast with a few little hills in it, places to sit. A gorgeous, gorgeous spot, and one of the most popular stops that people make here when they come to this area. So after some time there, on to Freeport. Freeport is just about a 20-minute ride from Portsmouth, so it's very easy. This is primarily a lunch stop. It's not a long shopping stop, but you do have time to go into the LL Bean flagship store, which is there, and it's a cute little town. It's mostly shopping that's there and restaurants, and if you're not into that, there's places you can easily you can just easily take a walk and kind of get out of the village and still be in a nice area. Then it's off to Boothbay. So Boothbay Harbor, there's going to be a guided tour, from a narrated tour from a local woman from Boothbay, who goes not only around Boothbay Harbor, but also to neighboring East Boothbay Harbor, which is gorgeous, has an interesting history of wooden boat building, a lot of beautiful summer cottages or summer homes. So that's a special thing to do. And then right after that, it's on to Captain Fish's cruises. And you see the photograph there on the boat. And so you get to see all kinds of historic lighthouses, the views, the homes, and hopefully a lot of wildlife. And then it's dinner at the hotel. This is the Boothbay Harbor Inn. It's right on the water. This isn't the open ocean, but the open ocean is just steps away. This is across like an inlet channel. And you can walk, there's a bridge that takes you very close to the property across the water, and then you're in the little village of Boothbay Harbor. So here for 2 nights, and the first night is a lobster dinner. And you can see what that looks like over here with steamers and lobsters and corn, a real traditional Maine lobster dinner. Here you go. Fun little lobster.
You brought your own lobster.
I have my own lobster. Yep. So anyway, that's a nice property. They do lots of bus groups there. And as I said, very convenient place to stay. And so, as I said, they are for 2 nights. So the next day, after breakfast at the hotel, just a short drive, 10 minutes tops, to the Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens. And what a gorgeous, gorgeous place this is. It's actually not that old of a botanical garden. It was officially opened in 2007. But for 16 years, so starting back in 1991, there was a group of local, community members who had this dream of building a botanical gardens. And long story short, 16-year story about what they wanted to do, and they completed their goal. And after it was first opened in 2007, they have added on quite a bit more. And so it's now over 300 acres. And its mission is to inspire meaningful connections among people, plants, and nature through horticulture, education, and research. Just exquisite gardens, and they have lots of sculpture there. You can do as much or as little walking as you want. It's a tour that's on your own, so you don't have to worry about missing anything if you're not there. You can stay closer to the main building and look around there, or if you're more adventurous, you can certainly walk down many of the other paths and go to waterfalls and other kind of secluded places. They also do a lot of teaching there, have a wonderful children's garden. It's become one of the top attractions in the state of Maine, and it's the largest botanical garden in New England.
Wow.
So for garden lovers, and those of you who don't really know if you're a garden lover after a trip here, you definitely will be. All right, then lunch is on Own in the village, cute little village. It's a very touristy little town. It's not like Rangeley that we're doing in the fall. It's a very pretty waterfront with good restaurants. And I said, there's lots of walking if you want to do that. So then it's on the bus and we travel north. Going to, the first stop is in Thomaston, Maine, at the Maine State Prison Store. Now, for a very long time, I've been working with Star for a very long time doing these tours, and there's a tour that goes right through Thomaston on the way to Rockland. And I can't tell you how many times people would say, oh, we're not stopping at the Maine State Prison Store. And they tell their story about when they were there. So there is now a stop at the Maine State Prison Store. What that is, it's on the photos on the bottom there. So they take prisoners, real prisoners, who are, on good behavior and kind of going through their rehabilitation well, and they allow them to work in the store. Now, everything that they sell in the store is made at the prison, and it's mostly wooden items. So you can see there on the left picture, those are lobster buoys that have been turned into bird houses. They have a lot of cutting boards. They have a lot of furniture, everything from, small little knick-knacky things to larger ones. And the t-shirts that the men wear on the back say property of the state of Maine, which is I don't think you find a place like this anywhere else.
I've never heard of any place like this.
It's very interesting. Now they're not there. They're not left there on their own. They have other folks there to keep an eye on them. But it really is a fun, interesting place. So there's a stop there to look around, and then on to Owl's Head, Maine, which is the home of the Owl's Head Transportation Museum. And you can see a couple photos there from that. There again, it's a tour that you do on your own, so you can gauge how much walking you do. It's quite a big place, but you don't have to walk far. You can stay closer to the main area. They have museum things to look at inside and outside, and it's kind of like a step back in time. They have some real fun autos and other things there. Then it's back to Boothbay for dinner on own, and then the next morning after breakfast, it's heading back home. So
wow.
That's the trip coming up in October, and you all are welcome.
Thank you
Would love to
very
see
much,
you.
Nancy. Super presentation. I really appreciate it. Nancy had a long day today, and we were lucky to have her on this call. So thank
Yes.
you so much.
You're welcome. I just made it home at about 20 after 6.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
glad it
Multitasking
worked
at
out.
its best.
Right.
This trip has 15 travelers booked on it, so we do still have a room for about 30 more people. Our tour director is Jane Peters Estes. Also, she's on there. She is. She's waving to us today. So
Great itinerary.
many of you
Yeah.
have traveled with Jane, and Jane is a Maine expert as well as Nancy. So Jane has been to Maine multiple times, and she loves going back. So she was happy to be able to escort this trip. Does anybody have any questions for Nancy? You did such a thorough job.
Wow. Well, it's a beautiful place. We have had, like everywhere, interesting weather this summer, but the humidity broke a few days ago, and it's just absolutely beautiful now. You actually need a little blanket at night when you have the windows open.
I
Yeah,
can't,
and
I
that
don't
chilling-
even know what that's like.
Oh, it's amazing. Just that little bit of chill really early in the morning, and then it just heats right up to high 70s, low 80s. It's beautiful, and it will be nice in October.
Awesome.
You'll need a jacket. It's not going to be like it is now in August, but it'll be beautiful. And also that will be about peak for the foliage. Along the coast, peak is about the middle of October. It always has been. I know things are different with the climate changes, but I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Good. I agree. Yeah, we timed this. We placed our order for perfect fall foliage. So, as usual, you can call to book with Lindy, or Bridget, our new travel advisor, or you can book online 24/7. We welcome you to do that. And oh, this reminds me, it's time for our gift card winner. But before I announce the winner, we have some business to take care of. Hold on, let me get my information. Our next Tour Tuesday is the Tuesday after Labor Day, actually. It's September 5th, and we'll be talking about holiday multi-day vacations. So these are multi-day vacations with a holiday theme. Make sure you plan to join us for September 5th Tour Tuesday. I hope you do. If I don't, before we finish up, I want to thank Nancy and Sharon for presenting today. We could not do this without you, truthfully. And we are so glad to have you as a partner, a longtime partner. So thank you very much for attending and presenting. I want to thank all of the STAR staff that's with us today as well, tour directors and travel advisors. So thank you guys for coming. And I would like to announce our winner for this this Tour Tuesday is Tony Guerra. There she is. She's waving. So Tony, you have won a $25 STAR gift card. Congratulations. You can use it on any trip you want. Of course, we invite you to use it on any of these 3 trips we've talked about tonight, or any trip that you would like. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to stay on for a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to stay and chat. And I'll go ahead and end the presentation. And I want to thank all of you, especially all of you, for coming and giving us your time on a Tuesday evening. We know your time is valuable. You are valuable to us. And we're so thankful to have you in our community of travelers. And we look forward to seeing you on another STAR trip soon. So thanks, everybody. And we'll see you in September.
Sandy, how many seats did you say were left for